So we're talking about when life gets scary, and speaking of that, do you think there was something on Friday night, like a holiday or event or something? Anybody, is it Halloween? Does anybody know about this? Does anybody know about this? You're not raising your hand. You're in church. I was just trying to see who to pray for. Anyway, listen, I don't do much with Halloween, but I do know the theme of Halloween is fear. Everybody say fear. Fear. Now, question. We're going to talk about fear a little bit today. What is it that brings out that fear gear in you? What's that thing? And I'm gonna kind of help you out, and I'm gonna just do some fun kind of things to kick this thing off. So we have a picture we'll put on the screen with some different things that make us scared. I think it's coming. There we go. All right. First off, snakes and or spiders. If you are scared of snakes or spiders, raise your hand. Just raise them up. Oh, whoa. All right. The spider part. We're in a basement. We painted it black for a reason, people, all right? If you're scared of spiders, do not stick your hand in that corner over there, all right? I'm just saying. So a lot of you are scared of snakes and spiders. What about heights? Anybody afraid of heights? All right. I had to look up pictures for this. When I found this picture, I literally felt it in my stomach. So I am scared to death of heights. How many of you are afraid of your mother-in-law? Okay, some of you are not smart. You're actually answering this question. No. I think this is the moment to shout out my mother-in-laws. I got two, Teresa and Terry. You're all amazing. I'm not scared of you. But we have all these different things that give us that fear gear, make us afraid. And there's big things, there's small things. And it makes me think of back in September, we're taking a family trip down to the Outer Banks. And every single person in my family, we are overpackers. Where are the overpackers at in the room? Yes, praise the Lord for us. We got everything, except we forget something, and it's amazing because we got everything else there. And so anyway, we're taking this road trip down to the Outer Banks. My car, the RAV4 is slammed with suitcases, surfboards, children. Okay, so we're driving down, and I'm driving over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and my boy Nixon from the back, who I can barely see because there's a luggage on top of him, he says, "Dad, I get scared when we drive over the bridge." Anybody got that bridge fear? Who fears and got that little bit of fear? There's somebody who will drive you over. That's like a thing. Like you can get driven over if you're afraid of driving over. Anyway, Nixon from the back of the luggage, territory in the back of the car, he's like, "Dad, I get scared when we're driving over bridges." And my wife, who I love so much, but she's not in this service, so I'm going to just tease her a little bit. She thought this was the perfect moment to give the family a lesson on what we do if Dad loses control of the RAV4 and drives off the bridge. I am not making this up at all. Okay, so Stacy, she's like, "Okay, kids, listen up." All right, so the kids are in the back, and she says, "Listen, if Dad loses control of the RAV4, he's probably going to blast right through this guardrail. It's probably made of aluminum or something. Okay, so he's going to blast through that. Then the car is going to be 20 feet in the air, flying through the air with luggage flying all through the cabin of the car, and then we're going to slam into the water." And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, "No, Stacey, no. Nixon is scared." And Stacey's like, "Listen, I got this. I'm a medical professional. I'm a nurse. Just let me go. All right. This is 100% true." Then Stacey opens up my glove box and gets this out. Anybody have one of these in your car? Yeah, the rest of you, what are you going to do if you drive off the bridge? This is in case of emergency, break glass kind of situation, okay? So it's supposed to break your window. So Stacy literally gets this out. She looks at the kids and she's like, "What I'm going to do is we're going to hit the water and we're going to start sinking fast." And so I'm going to hit the window. Glass is going to shatter everywhere. Water's going to come in. We're going to start sinking. And she's like, "What you got to do is you got to swim through the window. Watch out for the glass." All right. And then she said, this is very important. She said, "You got to swim away from the car as fast as possible because it's going to suck you down with it to depths we don't even know. And then you're going to swim up to the surface." And at this point, Stacy paused. This has all happened. I wrote this down right after it happened. Okay. She paused. She looked at me and she said, "Honey, if we come to the surface, like if we make it that far, do you think we could actually even swim 3 miles to the side, or will we drown?" And then she says, "Don't worry about it. Kids, backstroke it 3 miles and just pray for your life." And I look at Nixon in the back, and his eyes are like this. And he literally said, he's like, "Why you got to tell me this, Mom? I'm already afraid." And that is what it's called, a core memory for Nixon right there. That really happened. All right, and so fear is a real thing, isn't it? Fear is a real thing. Fear is and now all fear is not bad. Like if you're thinking about going to the Eagles Stadium wearing the other team's jersey, that's a big piece of stupid. Do not do that, okay? If you're afraid, you should be afraid, all right? All fear is not bad. Fear can be a good thing. Fear can be a God-given thing to protect us, okay? Fear is just part of the Christian journey. In fact, Proverbs 9:10 says this. We'll put this on the screen. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, if you're like, oh, what does that mean, fearing the Lord? I talked about this a few weeks ago. Okay, that's a great question for I don't know what it means to fear the Lord. What that doesn't mean is it doesn't mean we got to walk around in terror of him. It means we walk around in awe of him. Because we're like, my God is bigger and he's more powerful and he's more holy than anything that I am afraid of. And this is a big idea. Maybe this is the reason you came to church today. This next idea we'll put on the screen. When your fear for God grows, your fear for everything else gets smaller. When your fear for God, when your awe of him grows, your fear for everything else, it just starts to get smaller. So I don't know what you walked in here scared of today. Maybe you're scared for the path that your kids are on. Maybe you're scared that you're going to have another miscarriage. Maybe you're scared of the bills that are in your mailbox right now. Maybe you're scared of the direction our country is going in. Okay, maybe you're a Steelers fan. And the Ravens, you hear this, because we're coming for you, baby, okay? Listen, I don't know what you're scared of, but today I just want to talk about how faith can take control of you so that you can take control of your fears when your fear starts to take control of you. So how faith can control you. Now, to do this, we're going to be in a book in the Bible named Judges, and we're going to look at a guy in the Bible named Gideon. And Gideon, his story, if you want to do a little homework this week, his story is in Judges chapter 6 through 8. Epic story. Worth your time. Such a good story. And if you're like, well, I would read it, but I don't have a Bible. Every week we give out Bibles in our lobby. So right by the coffee area, there are blue Bibles like this. Go grab one. The coffee and the Bibles are free here. What a great church, people. And there's some pumps of like different flavors out there that I saw today. And I didn't approve that, and I'm a little worried about the budget, but that looks good. Anyway, grab a Bible on your way out. But speaking of Judges, we're going to be in Judges for Gideon's story. And if you're like a judge, like a Judge Wapner from the People's Court, okay, no. The book of Judges, the term judge in the book of Judges stands for a hero that God selects. So we're going to meet Gideon, who does not come across like a hero that God selects, okay? Because Gideon is going to be the one that God asks to lead the Israelite army versus an army called the Midianites. Everybody say the Midianites? They are scary because they are giants. And so when we meet Gideon, he doesn't seem like a God-selected hero. He's literally hiding in the bottom of a wine press from the Midianites. Now, maybe you're like, well, what is he doing in the bottom of a wine press? Is he drinking down there? I don't know. The good book doesn't say, but probably because he's scared to death. But watch this. This is in Judges chapter 6, verse 12. The angel of the Lord appeared to him, Gideon, and said, mighty hero. Everybody say mighty hero. Mighty hero. The Lord is with you. Now, my first thought is, mighty hero? My man is hiding out in the bottom of a wine press pit, scared to death. All right, singing Adele songs. This is not a mighty hero. But aren't you glad that God doesn't see us as we are, but as we can become? And so, when we see scared to death Gideon, God sees a mighty hero Gideon. And here's why Gideon is going to be a mighty hero. All right, we'll put this next slide up on the screen. God is going to use Gideon to lead the Israelite army of 32,000 soldiers, which sounds great until you realize the Midianite army is 120,000 soldiers. Who's the underdogs? The Israelites. I mean, this is like the Giants, New York Giants playing the Eagles. Oh, that already happened, didn't it? That's a sore subject. Okay, no. Okay, it's like the New York Jets playing any other team. Big time underdogs. And so Gideon is going to be the one who leads this army. So here's what happens next. All right, this is Judges chapter 7, verse 1. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, different name he got, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. Everybody say the spring of Harod. That's interesting. We'll come back to that. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moriah. Now, fun fact. Harod here in the original Hebrew language literally means fear. So, Gideon is camped out at the spring of fear. Hello. You ever been camped out at the spring of fear before? If you haven't, praise the Lord for you, but the rest of us have. And so I just want to give you a few ideas if you're camped out at the spring of fear in your life right now. And so first idea is this. If you're camped out at the spring of fear, remove the things that are feeding your fear. Now, speaking of feeding and fear, I'm going to ask you in a second if you're scared of sharks. Now, before you answer, I have been to the beach with some of you guys, and I've seen you see a bottlenose dolphin. And I've heard you yell shark and give your life to Jesus right there, okay? And so be honest, you're in church. How many of you ever kind of get a little bit of fear when it comes to sharks and being in the ocean? Let me see your hands, just loud and proud. Okay, a lot of you guys. Now, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I am not afraid of sharks. Now, I'm afraid of a lot of other things. I'm afraid of driving over the bridge right now, that's for sure. But I'm not afraid of sharks, and that's odd because I'm a surfer. I'm in our water around here 12 months of the year, and you don't want to hear this. I have seen a lot of sharks around here. That's the thing. One time, I got chased out of the water by a shark that was way bigger than any bottlenose dolphin I've ever seen. Last summer at the Indian River Inlet on the Dewey side, the north side, I was surfing, and this guy was fishing next to us, caught 5 sharks in less than an hour. And I'm weird. I am not afraid of sharks, except every single summer I have this tradition where I watch a movie around July, and maybe you know the movie. We'll put it. Listen, I'm getting scared. I'm not kidding. I watch this movie every July, and for at least a month, when I go in the water, you know what I hear? Burr, burr. I get scared in the bathtub after I watch this movie. I get scared of the neighborhood pool. I'm just like, I'm going to get eaten, okay? Like Pastor Cotter, Pastor Nate, tell the church I love them. I'm gone. I'm going to get eaten by a shark. And isn't it funny how our atmosphere and our environment can feed our fears? Listen, WebMD is a horrible place to hang out if you're trying to figure out your sickness symptoms. 24/7 news networks, all right, their goal in life is not to give you the joy of the Lord. Their goal in life is to scare you to death, because if it bleeds, it leads, right? Your friend Negative Nancy, who hates marriage because she had a really bad experience, and it's not her fault, okay? But she's not the one to call when you're having a little bit of marriage problems with your man Timmy. That's not who you call. And Jaws is not the movie you need to watch before you take a family vacation to the beach in July. And sometimes we have to remove the things that feed our fear, which is exactly what God is going to do with Gideon in this whole situation in the book of Judges, okay? So Gideon's camping out at the spring of fear. And check this out. This is in verses 2 and 3 of chapter 7. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many warriors with you." Okay, just seeing if you caught it. "If I let all of you fight the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me that they save themselves by their own strength. Therefore, tell the people, whoever is timid or afraid may leave this mountain and go home." So 22,000 of them went home, leaving how many? 10,000 who were willing to fight. Now, why did God do this? 2 reasons. Number one, it's right there. All right, God's like, listen, I don't want you to have any thought that you were so strong that you were the one who defeated this enemy. So I'm going to make it super duper clear that I did it. Okay, and the next thing God did is he's like, listen, I don't want any scaredy cats in my army. So send the scaredy cats home, because they're going to start scaring everybody else who's not scared. Why? Because fear is contagious. Have you noticed? And sometimes the most courageous thing we can do when we are facing fear is to send home the very thing that is feeding our fear, and the very people who are feeding the fear around us. Which means if you got something or anything feeding your fear around you, send it home. WebMD, if you got the WebMD app on your phone and you're scared of your illness, go to a doctor, but send away the app. 24/7 news networks. All right, how about you don't watch it 24/7? Maybe just check in once a week. You'll be happier. Your negative Nancy friend, okay, who's on your favorites list in your phone. Block negative Nancy. Sorry, negative Nancy, if you were watching. Because how are you supposed to feed your faith and your courage if all those other things are feeding your fear? You know what I mean? And so if you're like, hey, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to figure out this, all right, just ask yourself this question. We'll put it on the screen. Is this person, place, or thing feeding my faith or my fear? And if it's feeding your fear, send it home, baby. Just like God, send it home. 22,000 troops. Send them home. Because fear is contagious. Here's a second idea. If you're camped out at the spring of fear, change your perspective. Change your perspective. Now, this is one of my favorite childhood stories to tell and memories, and I've told it before. And it's not that it's the greatest story, but it's one of the best memories and core memories I have as a kid growing up. So it was in 7th grade, and I was spending the night at my buddy Andy's house on a Friday night. Now, we have a picture of my buddy Andy we'll put up here. This is my buddy Andy, who comes to this church. And if I did that right now, I would not only rip my pants, I would rip my hammy, okay? You know what I mean? But I've been hanging out with Andy since 6th grade. So in 7th grade, he had a bunch of guys come over to his house. We spent the night on Friday night, played N64. Some of you might know what that is, Nintendo 64. And we woke up the next day, and after we woke up, we noticed that he had a big window on the front of his living room. And we noticed a Buick slowly pulled up in the driveway. Now, Andy's parents weren't home, and Andy's family, including Andy, had a rule. And the rule was never, ever, under any circumstances, do you open the door because stranger danger. And so, we got this Buick that pulls up into the driveway. There's a bunch of 7th grade boys running around in the living room, all right? And out of the car gets these 3 Jehovah's Witnesses that are, listen, I don't want to say this, but they were so old. I think their combined ages was 997 years old. And I think one of them probably had a pet dinosaur growing up. Okay, they were old. And so they start walking towards the house, and Andy sees them. And Andy says to all of the 7th grade boys, he says, everybody, get on the ground. They're strangers. They could get us. And we're like, them? Like that King Tut looking dude with the cane and the Bible? Like you're worried about him? And Andy's like, on the ground. And so we're literally, 7th grade, never forget this, we're all spread out on the living room floor ground, like this, hoping they don't see us through the window. They finally get to the door, and they're just like, you know, and they're like, hello? Is there anybody in there? We got your Bibles. And Andy's like, shh. And we just wanted to talk to these guys. And Andy's like, no. And so finally these old, Jehovah's Witnesses, they, walk back to their Buick, which took like 17 hours. We're laying on the floor, and then they drove off, and we never answered the door. Why? Because Andy's family house was broken in when they were growing up, and so they had a different perspective than us. And so perspective is powerful. And so back to Gideon. Okay, God's about to challenge Gideon's perspective big time. All right, and so what God does is he's like, okay, all right, Gideon, I need to figure out, you got 10,000 left out of the 32, you got 10,000 left. You're facing 120,000 people. You with me? Okay, so God's like, that's still too many people. And so God says, take everybody down to the spring of fear and tell them to take a drink of water. And the people that like cup the water up in their hands and they drink that water like a dirty dog while they're looking around, those are your people. Those are your soldiers. You keep them. They got that dog in them. But the people who stick their face straight in the spring of fear, and you can't see nothing when your face is in the spring of fear, they have a terrible perspective. Send those people home. And so, listen to this. 9,700 people stuck their face in the spring of fear. That is 97% of the army. And now, Gideon's got to fight 120,000 people with only 300 dirty dogs. Really, God? Are you serious? You ever had a really moment with God? Is it just a pastor? You ever been like living your best life for Jesus? You showed up to church today. Some of you showed up to church and you're volunteering. Some of you showed up to church and you're volunteering and you gave to church today. Some of you watched the show The Chosen. And then sometimes, even with all those things, your life still turns into a country song. Isn't that right, guys? Really, God? Like, I had a really moment with God last week. I got my escrow analysis in the mail. Escrow analysis. The two least fun words in the entire English language, right? Anybody ever gotten one of these before? Listen, it was so big, they paid extra postage on this thing. There were so many pages, all right? It was ridiculous. And so I'm like, looking at this, I'm like, oh, this is going to hurt. This is not going to be good. And I get to the last page, it's like page 97, where it says, it's going to either tell you how much you're going to get back, yeah, right, or how much you're going to owe, all right? And I looked at the number, and I took a picture of the number. This is what we have. This is the number of what I owed. Guys, there were so many numbers. There was a comma. I'm like, a comma? Come on, Lord. I've been tithing my whole life. I'm a professional Christian. Literally. I'm like, come on, you got to give me a comma, Lord? Listen, we all have really moments with God. Isn't that true? Like, just really, God? And okay, by the way, I think those are the moments that challenge our perspective of God the absolute most. But Gideon, okay, he's challenged. He's got to face 120,000 soldiers with how many people? 300 people. I mean, talk about the spring of fear. His life got so scary. And so look at this. This is what happens in verse 7. The Lord told Gideon, with these men, I will rescue you and give you what? Victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home. Send those 9,700 others home. And sometimes, I don't know, I wonder if God just allows our situations to get so crazy and so scary that when he gives us victory, there's no other explanation but God. And I don't know what you walked in here afraid of today, okay, and you're scared of it because you think you're facing a battle all by yourself. And I just want you to know that the God that we should fear is looking at your situation straight in the eyes, and he's like, bring it. Bring it. And he's just wondering if you'll change your perspective, because if you will, he's going to let the dogs out. Oh, come on. You know how to use that line. I mean, he's going to let those dirty dogs out towards that thing. And so if you want to change your fear, change your perspective. And then the last idea is this. If you're camped out at the spring of fear, pick up your weapons. Pick up your weapons. Now, let's go back to the river of fear, spring of fear. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's go back to the spring of fear. You got the Israelites camped out at the spring of fear. You got the Midianites, the gigantic army camped out over there. It's nighttime. And so finally God's like, okay, guys, let's talk about weapons to these 300 guys. 300 versus 120. Like, it's about time we talk about weapons, right? And so all these soldiers, these 300, they pick up their swords, and God's like, well, no. Put your sword down. And he says, what I want you to do is pick up a trumpet in one hand. What is this, a ska band? Like, what? Okay. And in the other hand, pick up a torch. Okay, now we're talking. But then God's like, put a little cute piece of pottery over the torch little thing. And you got them, dirty dogs. How are you going to take a trumpet and pottery out to fight a battle? Like, if I'm Gideon, I'm like, I'm going back to the wine press pit. I'm going to sample the product until I'm speaking cursive. I ain't going out there. But that's not what Gideon did. He gave them those weapons, and they go, it's nighttime, and Gideon separates the group of 300 into 3 groups of 100. And he says, what I want you to do is I want you to sneak up on the Midianite army. They're all sleeping. It's the middle of the night. I want you to each get on a different side of them. And when you hear the signal, what I want you to do is I want you to smash the piece of pottery that the torch is under, okay? And then I want you to blow your trumpet, and I want you to shout for the Lord. And then I just want you to stand there and watch what happens. Okay. So these 300 guys sneak up on the gigantic Midianite army, and they're in groups of 100, and they smash the pot, they blow the trumpet, they shout for the Lord, And what happens is the Midianites wake up to 300 pots going. They open their eyes. They see flames all around them. They hear trumpets all around them. People shouting all around them. And they're like, we're under attack. We are outnumbered. So they start picking up their swords and swinging it at anything that moves, which was themselves. And when the dust settles, God uses 300 people to beat 120,000 Midianites. It's like the most epic story in the Bible. Read Judges 6-8 this week. It's so good, all right? But what's the takeaway? The takeaway is when life gets scary, you got to pick up some different weapons. Like when life gets scary, pick up the Bible, which is sharper than any sword that they make today. When life gets scary, pick up the weapon of worship. Turn your RAV4 into American Idol Season 4, just bumping it to some worship music. When life gets scary, pray when you can't sleep at night. When life gets scary, show up to a basement full of 300 people. Get in the dark in this basement and find people who will surround you and fight your battle with you. And I think so many times we think we got to fight in our battle, but sometimes we just got to stand there, fear God, and use his weapons. And I just want to tell you what the good book says about the things that you're fearing right now. We'll put this on the screen. The good book says, do not be afraid because God is with you. Do not be afraid because God hears you. Do not be afraid because the battle belongs to the Lord. Do not be afraid because God will come to save you. Do not be afraid because God will help you. Do not be afraid because God will strengthen you with his right hand. Do not be afraid because God personally goes ahead of you. Do not be afraid because God will not fail you. Do not be afraid because God will never abandon you. Do not be afraid because God will protect you. Do not be afraid because God knows you by name. Do not be afraid because nothing can separate you from God's love. Do not be afraid because God hasn't given you a spirit of fear. Do not be afraid because God knows you so well, he knows how many hairs you have. No jokes on that one, all right? Do not be afraid because the victory is his. Come on, somebody. Don't be afraid. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm going to end by telling you a story about Granny Jones. And we have a picture of Granny Jones we'll throw up here. This is Granny Jones, my great-grandma, and Granny Jones has been passed for a really, really long time. But here's what I remember when I was a kid about Granny Jones. At every family gathering, Granny Jones would sit on the couch, and she would hold her purse like this. Now, I don't know if Granny Jones was an NFL running back in her 20s, but she never fumbled her purse. You know what I mean? Like, she never dropped the purse. She would sit there like this. And here's what I learned later on. Granny Jones grew up during the Great Depression. And her biggest fear was someone taking her money. And so at Thanksgiving dinner, okay, Granny Jones would have her pumpkin pie sitting on the couch. She'd have her purse like this. And if you touched her pie or her purse, she would cut you. That was Granny Jones. And this is a famous story in my family. This really happened. Granny Jones, who was scared of money, my dad, who's our lead pastor, by the way, he decided to prank call Granny Jones one day. How are you going to prank call Granny Jones? But he prank calls Granny Jones, who's scared to death of running out of money. And Granny Jones answers, and my dad disguises his voice. And my dad said, I'm calling for a Mrs. Jones. This is Bob from the IRS. Miss Jones owes us a lot of money. How are you going to say that to Granny Jones? My dad has a lot of explaining to do in heaven one day. And even that's kind of questionable right now. I mean, I don't know how you do this, you know. And so my dad says, hey, Mrs. Jones owes us a lot of money. This is Bob from the IRS. Granny Jones is on the other line. And this is what my dad hears. Click. Not today, IRS. Not today. True story. My dad calls right back to be like, hey, I was just kidding. Granny Jones won't answer the phone. Granny Jones didn't answer the phone, no lie, for the rest of the day. She's like, forget it. I ain't talking to the IRS. I'm hanging up on fear. I ain't answering the phone on fear. It ain't happening. Granny Jones, people. Granny Jones. Listen, I don't know what fears you walked in here with today, but I do know God wants you to Granny Jones that thing. You need to hang up the phone on your fear of your future. You need to hang up the phone on your medical fears. You need to hang up the phone on your parenting fears. You need to hang up the phone on your political fears. You need to hang up the phone on your anxiety and your depression and your hopelessness. You need to hang up the phone on your Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel fears. Hang up the phone. Why? Because God didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of love and power and of sound mind. So hang up the phone and do not be afraid. Can you all just say, hang up the phone? Hang up the phone.